Good morning, everyone. Now I know where all the cool kids are hanging out. Cool. So I taught class last night, and we started with this heart bowl, so I thought we'd try that because I really like it. So if you would, just center yourself, and when I'm done with the bowl, we'll do our opening. So as our heart chakras open wide, we come to that revelation, to that realization of the presence of the divine. Because love and God are the same thing. And we know in that omnipotent, omniscient omnipresence that all is good, that all is whole, that all is sacred. And we let that rise up within our consciousness to be those we have come to be and to do what is ours to do. To spread this clear and magnificent truth that God is all there is, and to live from that in everything that we are. And I know with absolute certainty that in that place of knowing, we rise up, that we shine brightly, that we bring our presence full orbed, resplendent into this moment and every moment. So as we experience our time together today, I know blessings occur, I know revelations are brilliant, and that all that comes forth from within us is magnificent. And letting that be the truth, I am grateful for each one who got up and went through the snow to find their way into this room to share in this wonderful knowing. I am so grateful to be a part of the Center for Spiritual Living Asheville and to receive the many blessings that are always here. So in gratitude for that and all of life, I simply let this be the truth from which we move forward. And knowing it is so, letting it go, together we say, so it is. Isn't that a powerful little bowl? Yeah. You want to have a little heart? Yeah. I know Barbara stands. This is just too cushy. So, before now, I have not had the blessing of the teachings of the one who wrote this book that we're working from, Ms. Militz. Wow. What occurred to me as I was reading is that had this kind of material been accepted and embraced at the Council of Nicaea, this would be a very different world. But this doesn't give power to anybody but the one that reads it. It doesn't open up anything but the heart and the mind and the potential of the individual. It gives nothing to organization or structure or government or anything else in that regard. It simply tells us who we are. And how absolutely wonderful is that? So your reading this week were lessons 4 and 5. And I'm just gonna go through what the highlights were for me in going through that material, and welcome any comments or questions that come along the way. I'm sure I'll ask questions and open it up, but in the midst of it all, if you have something that adds to this conversation, please share. Please bring that to bear here. So as I was reading, I got this notion that Annie Ritz-Willits comes from that place of understanding of absolute knowing of truth, which is a magnificent place to be. It's the most powerful place to be. However, we all live in this physical universe, and it beckons us every moment to live in it and be part of it. And it's kind of cool to be here. I mean, I don't know how we would have a conversation about the presence of spirit if we didn't have the ability to separate, at least in the illusion, and converse with one another. So it's this dance. And to me, it's like a pendulum swing. And what Annie is asking us to do is swing all the way to the absolute, to live from that place. And yet, it's not like there's a line down the middle and you could be on one side of the relative and one side of the absolute. I don't think you can do that. I think that as long as you're in a body, as long as you're using a body to be in a three-dimensional form state in time and space, that you're going to have a relationship with effect. You are. The question is, can we learn not to let it run our lives? Can we learn not to make our choices based on effect? I think that's what this is all about. She talks about not dying, about living forever, and we don't die. Our bodies do, though. I'm not sure where exactly she's going with that, but I do know that when we come here into a body, when we take a body, I don't think we're physically in a body. We have a relationship, each one with the body. I believe that we are cast into a spell that says that this is real. And it's easy to believe that. You know, take a hammer and hit your thumb. That feels real. Ow! You know? So all of the experiences of effect feel real. They look real. They taste real. They sound real. So to deny them takes us to a different place. And we can be in conflict with that, or we can continue to struggle with that. She says that all the struggle is on the effect side, that there's no struggle in the absolute. So she wants us to get to that place of absolute knowing and to live from it in everything that we do. And then we stub our toe. Ow! Ow is a response of effect. Do we not do that? Do we not feel that? We can't deny it. We can say this is not real. But the truth is, the stuff we like here isn't real either. It's all illusion as well. So the question is, what kind of illusion do you want to create? That, to me, is how to do it. I'm not going to go to war with effect, but I'm going to try to kind of detether myself from it enough that I can always remember the truth and work from that place and not give it my power. Yet I do. Who's here? Was anybody here last night? Okay, so you heard my story about the dogs. Those of you that raised your hand. Let me share this with the rest of you. Barbara has had a medical procedure last Wednesday, right after this class. She did the next day. We did my president's teleconference call, and off she went to the doctor to have her face lasered. And she asked me to take care of her. And I have. And it's been a joy to bring her food, because she loves the food I bring. and to fluff her pillows and bring her rice bags warmed in the microwave. I love that stuff. And if that's all that there was, I would have been in my glory. But we have 2 dogs. And I'm still working on that. So that all the issues around the dogs that have occurred over the last week, happening in effect, got to me. To where one night I was just walking around just pissed as I've ever been, saying, I don't understand dogs. Why do we have to have dogs? And she's just laying there loving me through it. But what happened was, the more I complained about the dogs, whether I said it or I just thought it,
Yes.
the worse it got.
Right.
The worse it got. You know, and they're two beautiful, lovable beasts, so it's not them, they're just being dogs. It's me and how I'm perceiving them that creates the struggle and the suffering in my life. To the point where just on Sunday morning, or Sunday afternoon, everything's done here, but we're not done. There's been this wonderful choir thing going on, and people are hanging around, and one of the people that was in the choir is a 2-year-old. Barbara let the dogs out through the back, thinking everyone's got to be gone. And I walked outside and looked, and there were at least 20 cars still here. And the dogs come running past me, and I think, wow, I got to watch these dogs. And then I realized the door's open to the sanctuary, propped open. Oh, they're going to go in there. So I start really making a beeline to that door. And then one of the people that was with you, a man had his 2-year-old daughter with him. Gorgeous, cherub-faced, beautiful little being. The dogs! Plummet this little child, so I race over and I get to the dogs before they get to her. She's so cute, and they're pulling and pulling, and they want to play with her, and she's got some kind of toy, and they're licking the toy, and I'm saying, okay, we gotta go home. So I turn around. One of the dogs hates to be held by the collar, and I don't have leashes. So I've got to walk them back, hunched over to the house. And the little black one goes bananas and starts yiping and twisting and falls on his back and just about breaks my finger. So I come in the house going, this is terrible! And for 2 days I can't close my hand because my finger hurts. Did the dog do that? No, I did that because I was totally caught up in affect. I had made judgments of the dogs, I had found problems, and they were serving me fully. Because God doesn't care whether you want to be happy or miserable. Life will give you what you call forth. At that point I said, okay, that's enough. I love the dogs. I can live with the dogs. Everything's fine. And I let it go. But it took a while. And I think I'm pretty evolved, and yet, no, I fell right into that trap. So we all fall into these traps. We all fall into the effect. But it's not the effect that has the power over us. It's our thinking about the effect. That's where it's happening. That's the issue. That's the issue. There's everything in life really pretty neutral, that as I can see. Now, we're going to have the conversation about how do we justify certain things, but not quite yet. I want to stay with this idea that when we are reacting to circumstances in our lives, we have fallen completely into the control of effect. In fact, we just give our power away to the circumstances of our lives when we react to anything. Even the good stuff, even the stuff we love, we become slaves to it if we give it power over us. Because if it went away, we'd be miserable. So the idea is that we are not in any way held to the state of conditions in our lives. We are not held to those states. That we observe those, and they are truly a reflection. In the creative mind, Holmes is so clear about how our environment is purely a reflection of our consciousness. There's nothing that we are perceiving that didn't start within us. And I love that the term within is such a hard to understand term because it makes us think inside our bodies, but that's not what it is. It's within our consciousness. Everything is revealed from within our consciousness. Even those things we say we never asked for and we never wanted, if they showed up in our lives, they are purely a result of consciousness and nothing else. They have to be. Nothing is created in effect. Nothing is created in effect. Everything is created in mind, and mind is absolute. So we're using this thing that Maritza's talking about all the time. We're using it constantly. We're just not aware of what we're doing. So the task here that she calls us to is to wake up and to function from that knowing that we are creating everything, and to stop going unconscious and letting effect drive us. That's the work. Always the work. My first way into that came before I even knew anything about this stuff here. Was when I lived in Australia and had my first spiritual teacher. He came from a disciplines of Zen Buddhism and Scientology. I know. He was in the Church of Scientology in Sydney, Australia for several years, and then said, okay, that's enough. And he left, but he learned a lot from it. So he taught us from that perspective, and it was extraordinarily helpful. So the first thing I realized in my life from him was that we could break the spell by having something that we could say that would remind us of who we were. And mine was, life's a game. So something awful's happening, or I hear some news, and I go, oh no, wait a minute, life's a game. And it just took the pressure off. And it reminded me I'm in control of my experience. And I don't have to buy into that or anything else. And it was wonderful. Now, I have not met anyone who finds value in that statement, but it doesn't matter, it worked for me. So what I'm suggesting to you is, because we so easily can fall into that illusion, that trap of effect. Effect is not bad. I love living in the world of effects. I love being here. I love my experience of seeing and smelling and tasting and touching and hearing things. I love being able to use my senses. It's wonderful. However, if I let that drive me, things don't seem to work out very well. I have to remember who I am. So that's my little game, is to remind myself with whatever, whatever tool you want to use, that's not how it works. That's the illusion of how it works. And we give our power to things all the time. But if we want to play a bigger game, if we want to play a clearer game, if we want to live the life we've come to live, this is the thing to learn. This is the thing to get. Is it really is not the way it appears. The way it appears is how we've created it in our thinking. And this is the work to do, to make that distinction. I think that's where she wants us to go. Some of her Bible quotes are just amazing. I love it. And one that we all know is, all things are possible to those that believe. You'll notice I changed the gender thing. All things are possible to those that believe. Believe what? Believe that's not true? Or that there are limitations? I think it's bigger than that. I think it comes down to the second step of treatment. I think it comes down to this idea that we are the divine. The divine dwells at the point of us. With absolute. Freud's the one that said that the absolute is all present everywhere. Meaning at the point of view, all of God exists. The created element that created the cosmos dwells at the point of view. And you use that once you recognize that's who you are. That's a mouthful. That's a lot of stuff. But when we can move ourselves to that place of speaking with the authority of the divine, it has to be so. We're not asking anybody to change when the sun comes up. That seems to be handled at some level, some cosmic level. All those wonderful, elegant dance of the celestial beings gets handled. But certainly we have the ability to create our environment, our experience of life. Way more than I think we can. One thing I learned in Australia, I don't know why I'm on Australia, but it's just there. Often people will go, well, sure, you can control the conditions of your life, but you can't control the weather. Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. I was in Australia, and we had our meetings during the week, and the weekend was off. But on Saturdays, groups of us would go and do things. And so there was this plan for a beach party. And in Australia, the beaches aren't long. They're coves. Everything turns into a cove. And there are special places where you can go. And the government puts in parking lots and pathways, and you get to these beautiful beaches. But they are contained, and it's quite lovely. So we decided to go to one, the group of us, to a place that people thought would be lovely, and we would be probably alone. Or at least there wouldn't be many other people. And so our plan was to meet in downtown Sydney in the morning and go off to the beach. Well, I get out of bed. It is pouring. It is coming down in sheets. What are we going to do? We're going to the beach? Well, sure, let's go to the beach. Wow. I wasn't quite there yet. So we drive downtown, and we're all huddled under this awning in front of this high-rise in downtown Sydney. Water's everywhere. The van pulls up, or probably several vehicles pull up, and we all climb into these cars, and off we go to the beach. and it's pouring, and the windshield wipers, you can't hardly see. And I'm saying, what are we gonna do if it's raining? And they're looking at me, these people have been in this longer than me, and I go, stop it, it's gonna be fine. Okay. So we drive down, there are no highways in Australia, there weren't 30 years ago anyway. And so we're driving down this windy road to get to the beach. We get there, we pull into this parking lot, and as we pull in, it stops raining. And we get out, we get our stuff, and we're walking down this path to get to the beach. And it's beautiful because the sun's come out and everything is covered with water, so it's glistening. And you know, the plants are very different in Australia, so I'm in this magical, mystical place and just looking around and seeing all this beauty. And we get down to the beach, and we set up our picnic, and we play in the water, and we have this wonderful day. There's big driftwood pieces up on the beach, and we're climbing on them. It was just a beautiful day. And when we were done, we packed up and we got back in the car, and we started out the parking lot, and the rain began falling in sheets. And I look at them all and go, wow, that is really a change. So now I know if I need to have a different experience of weather, I can create that. I have no doubt. I have seen that in things where hurricanes were headed right to where I was, and I said, Barbara, let's move it. And sure enough, and you know, you go, well, what a coincidence, but by God, that storm moved. And other times where we said, run! You know, because we were into the whole idea of effect, you know, whatever works. You know, but I truly believe that we don't even begin to use our ability to know. There's a movie that just came out I want to see, and I don't even remember what it's called, but the concept is that they figured out how to get somebody 100% use of their brain. What's it called? Lucy. And what I'm thinking is, that's not about your brain. That's about knowing who you are. We could let go of everything that holds us in physical form and know the truth of who we are. We do one of two things, we transcend or we be Lucy. So that's where we're going to. Sai Baba said, when asked, why can you do these things? He said, the only difference between you and me is that I know that I'm God. And saying that you're God too, but you just don't know it yet. So what can we do? We're just beginning to scratch the surface of that, to get a sense of that. And again, that's where I believe this teacher is taking us. We must see she writes, we must see ourselves as one with God, so that when we speak, we know that it is God speaking. I would translate that to say we must see ourselves as God, so that when we speak, we know that it is God speaking. That's the truth. We are the presence of the divine. Not a little bit of it, not part of it, not some of it, not on certain days. We're always the presence of the divine. And when we embrace and embody that knowing, everything changes. And all of us are on that path. As we come into this room, we say, tell me, I want to understand. And really, as is so clear, that's already within you. You already know that. Everyone on the planet has that available from within them to know that truth. Not everyone seeks it. Most people are married to their problems. You know, they're very happy. You know, they've done studies where they have asked people with chronic or life-threatening diseases if they would trade that in for another disease that was equally chronic or life-threatening. Nobody wants to change. Everybody's going to deal with the problem they've got. They don't want a different one. Isn't that amazing? So we have no relationship to that problem? Of course we do. The thing is something that we've created. It's not wrong. I really don't want you to think that I'm saying that anyone that is experiencing effect is wrong. They're not wrong. That's the way they choose to live their lives. Apparently we choose a different way. We choose a different way. So when we focus upon that which we claim to be so, it must be so, without exception. So long as we know who we are. And I know there are a lot of people that want to skip those first two steps of treatment. They don't want to talk about what God is. They don't want to try to claim that they're God. They just want to go right to affirmations. And I tell you what, they're working with less than a full deck when they do that. And I don't know anyone that knows it well enough that really can skip those first two steps. I can't even begin to, wouldn't. No. And I will not same words with each time that I speak. I must be fresh with it. I must know who I am now. Now, not how I was yesterday, not that really cool thing that I said a week ago. I must know it now as best I can. That's my job. And when I know it, then I speak with that authority, and something shifts. She says we must speak with the authority of the divine. That's true. She talks about having faith in God. Any thoughts on faith, this whole idea of faith? Maybe you're working on that? What you got?
Well, it really was very powerful when, last week, whenever I read it, that the only reason we quote fail is due to lack of belief. That's what she said in there. And that is, I love it when it's just so clear. Oh, okay, just have to keep working on belief.
Well, what do we believe?
That
Because
God,
believing is an abstract concept.
well, that God is all good all the time and always available, and I'm God.
Yeah, if you're God, then you're always available, aren't you?
Yeah.
Especially for the conditions of your life.
Yep, I'm responsible.
That's it. That's it. Andrew, what do you want to say?
I was going to say that I saw that, where it delineates the lessons, and I said, I changed it to having the faith of God,
So did
as
she.
opposed to faith in God.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
you hear that, faith in God and whatever, but if you have the faith of God, that's a whole other thing, I think.
How is it different?
Because it's, then, you're not putting yourself or your ideas in an outside force, I know.
So when we speak with the faith of God, we are knowing that what we say is so.
Mhm.
Okay. And that's the definition for me of faith, is knowing that something is so. If faith in it, then we know it's so.
Mhm.
So having faith in God actually works as well. It works in the idea that I have faith in God at the point of me to know that what I say and what I know is absolutely true and is revealed perfectly in my life. So you can play it either way, and still it works. Yes, Rick?
I think the idea of faith is individualized,
Yes.
and we could almost say that it's really an opinion. Faith is your opinion, and that works.
It does. And we have these levels of words, and some would say, well, I don't have an opinion, I just know. But it's the same thing, no matter how you want to couch it. The idea that is how I understand life to be is enough to make it work. In fact, she did a whole section, I believe, on faith and understanding and how they work together. And if you have one without the other, you got nothing. I think that was in the second chapter. Yep, it is. Blind faith does not seek knowledge. And when it does not, it degenerates into superstition and eventually becomes barren. Because it becomes as though someone else had this and now you're going to use what they had. And all you need is a little bit of fear and uncertainty to sip in, and then it doesn't work quite like it worked before, and then you're in a mess. That was the story of the disciples. They just didn't work. It just, they couldn't do the healing. What did Jesus say? I love that line. How long must I suffer you? That's pretty much what he was saying. I'm telling you this over and over and over again. Because they thought he had the power. They thought he had the power and that he was going to give them a little of that. They didn't get it. They had it too. Because if they did, then their work would have been as complete as his. It's quite amazing. Yes. Carolina.
I am so grateful to be at a place where I am in these teachings at this time, because I find them very faith strengthening and just extraordinary. I'm really having a divine experience of them. And I want to say that I think the first class, Barbara, we learn to speak the homework, I guess, what we speak every day. Part of it is I love the Lord my God with all my heart, with all my soul, with all my mind, with all my strength. And I can't tell you how many times I use that.
Yeah.
I use it for absolute, I use it for effect, I use it. And she made it really clear about the strength part with all my strength. And when I say it, it's all of me saying it. So it's more than just speaking it. And that, when you asked about faith, there's something that's being so, I see it in my life. It's very amazing.
It is amazing, thank you, Carol. It's amazing in that how brilliantly it works when we work it according to this very simple calculation. I'm the presence of the divine. That's where I work from. When I know that, then I have matched faith with understanding. That's the only thing to do. That's the only thing that works.
The feeling with every cell.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and every time we fall into any effect, anytime we get angry, anytime we get afraid, we have fallen back into effect. That is not our true nature. That's the thing that we picked up coming into physical form. That's part of the illusion. Grace consciousness is so powerful because we don't think about it. I was saying last night in class that one of the things I like to do when I begin a class is ask everyone to write down what they believe. Everything you believe, write it down. And they look at me like, what? Because you can't. Because all of your beliefs that create the totality of your consciousness are not available until necessary. You know, you're not sitting here thinking that you have either a fear or respect for venomous snakes. But boy, if you see one, you remember that, don't you? And you're full of beliefs about things. Some of them work for you and some of them don't. Some of them work for you at one time, and then some suddenly they got in your way, and you don't even know it because you're not thinking about it, but still it's in your consciousness, a thought. Did you raise your hand?
I believe, I've missed a couple of the classes, and I know that would help me, that I'm an individuated expression of God, God expressing as Barbara, and sometimes I feel a little lonely thinking, okay, it's all up to me, it's all in me, and it helps me, whether it's effect or whatever, to ask for assistance or grace or help from other individuated forms of the expression of God. So I invoke my angel team and spirit guides and Holy Spirit and Jesus, and I say, okay, this is what's happening. Because then I feel like I'm in communion, I'm in relationship, and I feel, I just feel I'm not alone. I feel like I have assistance and support, so it helps me feel stronger, and it helps me, just feel I'm in communion. And I've experienced moments of grace and moments where it helped me let go also to just be my higher self and not come from my ego. And I don't know where that fits with the science of mind teachings. Is there space for that in these teachings as well? Am I making sense?
Oh, you're making perfect sense. So you think that you would be in your ego if you relied simply on the presence of the divine as you?
Not necessarily. However, I think it helps me to pray out loud and say, all right, I have the situation, Holy Spirit, and
Who are you talking to?
Holy Spirit, I mean, it's
What
all,
is that for you?
it's all part of the one. I think there's duality and there's oneness at the same time. I think that's the paradox. So I think Holy Spirit, yes, the Holy Spirit is me, but it's also another individuated expression. Is that, I don't know.
So you want relationship to be part of this?
Yes.
Okay, obviously you have some desire for relationship. Are your angels separate from you? Do they show up when you call them?
I guess I've always, growing up Catholic, I've always felt them as these other entities, these other expressions of the divine. But I know that we're all one, so just as I am you and you are me, I am the angels and they are me.
Yeah, but you're not relying on me to help you through difficult times.
Right,
You're relying on non-physical entities.
right.
What if they don't show up?
I haven't experienced that yet.
Is it a possibility?
Sure.
Then you're living in effect.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not that I'm making you wrong here. You can live your life any way you want. We're not here to demand you live your life a certain way. None of us are, including me. However, if you rely on something or someone not to show up that you require to be supported and at peace, then you're relying on something outside of yourself, even in your way of perceiving the universe, which makes you vulnerable. If the presence of the divine at the point of view is always in charge and you speak from that authority, even with all the angels and support beings and totems and whatever else you want to call into the mix, are not required for you to be whole and complete, yeah, you can work from that and play with those things. You know, lots of things to play with. But if we give our power to anything outside of knowing who we are as the presence of the divine,
Right.
then we're vulnerable.
Right. No, I can understand, I can get that, and I feel like it is me, but I feel like, okay, there's a little support system around me. It just, in that imagining or visualization helps me, and call it illusion or fantasy, but I don't know if anybody else feels this way or has felt this way, but I want to be in communion with the divine and not just be in communion with myself. I
So
want
you're-
both.
So you're not the divine?
Yes, but I want both. I want the representation outside myself. It's like a relationship with human
The
beings.
divine obviously wants that for us, or we'd all have our own planet. That's because there's plenty of planets out there. You know, we'd just appear on a planet and say, okay, here's mine to create. But that's not how it works. We do it interactively with one another. Yet we don't rely on others to be us. I love the idea that nothing was created absolutely by an individual. It always is done in concert and community with others. You know, nobody built a skyscraper by themselves. No one built a bridge. No one healed a relationship by themselves. It's all an interactivity. So I don't deny you the right. If you want to have angels, you want to have beings come. My first teacher had lots of those. His wife once said that she had to sleep in a different room because at night it was like a brothel in there. A spiritual brothel, she called it. I never asked. But, you know, you want to dance and play with other entities, I think that's fine, just don't need them to be whole.
Right.
Be whole within yourself, find God at the point of view, and you've found everything. Now who do you want to play with? Play with anybody and everybody you want.
No, I get what you're saying. I get it. Yeah. It helps.
It's a little fine line between
Yeah.
them, yeah.
Yeah.
Good for you. Any other thoughts in the room on that? It's a lovely conversation. I think the ideas of angels and such are fascinating. Why not? Let's have fun.
So, you know, this is a process of redefining how I see myself and who I think myself to be.
Yes.
It's a big deal.
You think?
It's huge.
Yeah.
You know? One of the things I find that and I started to come to peace with it is I find ways to not go there because there's a fear, and this is all at the relative level,
Yeah.
that, well, I see my mind go all kinds of places, right?
Right.
So I'll go there, I'll get all this power going, whatever it is that comes with being the truth. And then I just start creating other things out of control. I guess that's where the discipline really comes in, Cynthia. But, you know, I see myself go, all right, get a head of steam going, so
Yeah.
to speak, and then I go, no, I just want to play around for a while and be small. And it's,
Okay. Well, you know, small and large is all relative.
yeah.
No, that's on the effect side. Whatever you're doing is the work of the divine. You know? And to me, even all the challenges of our life, I get the idea of disowning that and sending it back to the nothingness from whence it came. That's brilliant and beautiful, and it came for a reason. For me, it came to show me who I am. Show me that I'm more powerful than it. Everything, anyone that I would ever have called my enemy was there to teach me. It's God showing up to say, wake up, John!
Yeah.
You're bigger than this. You're more powerful than this. You have the ability to override this like that. All you have to do is remember who you are. And when I do, it dissipates into the nothingness from whence it came. Because it was an illusion.
Including my uncontrollable mind.
All of it. All of it. Whatever you want to play with. The problem is that often we make things wrong like that, rather than going, what's the lesson, what did I get here? Oh, okay, I can control this, I can make this be anything I want. You know, and if you can go to that place, it's fine. You know, we have this hierarchy in life. We have people, you don't have it anymore, but there are people who have people that they work for. At least that's what our words that we use in our culture. We have supervisors and managers and department heads and whoever it is, and we have constituents, and whoever it is we answer to somebody, most of us, and we somehow think that's a power over, and it's not. It's a collaborative agreement. And it keeps us focused on the direction of what's important and what we're doing. You know, but nobody owns us. Nobody owns us. And when we give our power away to some hierarchy, we lose. So, you know, there's so many elements to this that we play with. Most of it never thought about because it's part of race consciousness. We don't think about it yet. It exists in us as part of our consciousness. Because everybody sees it that way. So it must be so. But it's not, unless you say it's so. I mean, Holmes says, you know, if it's not, don't make it real if it's not real. You know, and so what we can do with this is keep testing that line. What are we master of? What do we have dominion over? We say everything, but what does that mean? Can we do the things that Jesus did? Can we do the things that Sai Baba did? Can we transcend physical form? You know, there are people that say they can. They do astral projection, all kinds of interesting things. I did a class here one time on what was that stuff called when you can actually observe something happening at another time in another place? Remote viewing. I did a class on that. And there was a group of us I actually bought a packet from some company, and it had in it envelopes, and it had the coordinates on the outside. The weird thing about the coordinates, they mean they were just coordinates assigned to a particular idea around a time and a place where something happened. And so what I would do is I would give out the coordinates, and then everyone would take paper and pen and they would draw what they saw. And we did that one night, and one woman drew this thing, and she had no idea what it was. And the rest of us drew different things, but she drew this thing. And when we opened the envelope and read it, what it was a wellhead in not Saudi Arabia, but that little country next to Saudi Arabia.
Guitar?
Kuwait. It was a Kuwaiti oil field. It was a wellhead that had caught fire.
And it
And she drew it because I was in the oil industry. And looked at it and said, oh my God, that's a wellhead. And she had no idea what it was. But that's what she saw. Wow. Can we do things like that? We can do so many things that we don't even know about. Wow. You know? So, to me, that opens up so many possibilities that we can have one of two choices. We can be overwhelmed by it, or we can make peace with it and use it to live the life we've come to live. You know, it's simply knowing, not immediately buying in. I just got to draw it. What are we doing on time? We've got a quarter. This is the thing that Holmes got Sri Aurobindo in India. We call it the teachings, and I get a little nuts about it. I have it tattooed on my arm. I wear it on my ring finger, and it just explains everything to me. Is anybody who has not seen this and used this tool? Anybody? Great, we got some people, so the rest of you have to listen. The circle means everything. That's a little silly because you can't put everything in a circle, but it's a symbol, it means everything. Okay, it's everything. It's you know, however that would be. So you give these three sections with these two lines, you give them names. Oh, that's wrong, because that's not spirit. The whole thing is spirit. In fact, spirit's after here and beyond, no edges. Okay, well, we play the game of the model nonetheless. We call it minimum law because it's whatever it is, the mechanism that creates from our thinking. And then we have, now all of these have multiple names. Now if you look in the textbook, size of my textbook, a gazillion names apply, but important ones to know right now are pause, effect, Absolute. Relative. This was Holmes's body that he used to teach from. And what he said is that everything is initiated here, in this idea of everything. Nothing is initiated here, in the world of effects, in the world of form. Nothing is initiated here. And that there is this law through which this initiation is manifest and reflected into form. That's the way he said it works, and I agree. So how does it work? Well, there has to be an idea. All ideas start here. And so that idea moves through the law into form. So that you see it, it's reflected back to you. The idea exists and then it's reflected back. So what do you do with that? You look at it, you smell it, you taste it, you touch it, you hear it, whatever sense you use, and you go, ooh, that's real. Where does that thought happen? Here. And then what happens? The thing repeats itself. Oh, that's real. Okay, I see it again. Oh, that's real. I see it again. That's real. I see it again. Pretty soon we've convinced ourselves that this is what's real. Because our senses said it was. We observed it. And then we recreate it again and again and again. I resonate with the idea that God did not create the world. That God is still creating the world. With every thought that we have. And that's what sustains our universe, is our thinking it into existence again and again and again and again and again. However, when we're doing that, we're morphing it into something and giving it some kind of power over us. So when our parents have an argument and we observe that, we accept that people who love each other fight and are mean and it's painful. We create those thoughts and then they show up in our lives. We create a relationship with another person and they lie to us. Or they hurt us. Or they do something. And it reminds us of what happened in that original relationship, which we have continuously returned into our life by believing that it's so. And it's inarguable at that point. No, I saw it. I was part of it. I felt the pain. Don't tell me that's not real. And we are totally committed to the idea that this is where it happens, down here. But it doesn't. It doesn't ever. It can't. The model doesn't allow for that. It allows us. We're here. You got that? Not your bodies. Your body's here. You're not your body. You're a spirit. So the spirit of you, as the divine, dwells in this part of the model. And it observes this part. It experiences this part. So how does that work? This is the point of expressing into form, and this is the point of experiencing that expression. And that's what we do. We express into life, and we experience life. And it's this constant cycle. So what can we do? What do we do with that to make our lives work? Because we've convinced us completely, we have fallen into a state of we're hypnotized into believing that that's how it works. We can demonstrate it. We can give you the facts. Well, that's another one that goes in here. All facts exist here. The truth is here. They are different. Never in a courtroom do they actually talk the truth. They should say, do you solemnly swear to give the facts and only the facts? Sort of like they did on Dragnet. That's the more accurate way to say it because truth isn't even part of that. It's all about facts. So, and facts change. I mean, maybe that fact of that moment doesn't change. We say that's what happened, although we keep remembering what happened, that thing that happened, and we keep morphing it into something much more dramatic than it really was. That's sort of how the game works, but the truth is it never changes. The truth is absolute. The presence of the divine is absolute without exception. That's true. So we get caught up in this ongoing thing that keeps showing up in our lives, and we think it's real and it's not, and we've fallen prey to it. So the only way to break that is to remember who you are. Because in that model of seeing and being affected by it, you don't remember who you are. If you have any reactivity to any circumstance in your life, you're giving power to the bottom of this line. No matter what. If you feel sorry for somebody, if you get angry at somebody, if you're surprised or upset that something occurred, you're playing and giving power to that. The trick is to, I don't think as human beings we can always not do that. And forgive me, Melissa would be all over me right now for saying that. But I give us the space to go, and then to remember who we are. Go back up top and remember that and focus there. See, now what do I want to create? Who do I want to be? I want to be the divine. So,
Yeah, so I have a question, and I almost like hesitated asking it.
I got that,
It's,
because you just did.
yeah. Maybe you won't see me. Okay, this has come up over and over again. And I'll
Good,
say
I love those things.
responsibility for it. I really want to hear your take on it. So I see myself as a creator being, something that came as differentiated spirit for a purpose, for a reason. I don't see it as just an effect and purposeless. So that's one part of it. So I don't need to know exactly what my purpose is, and there I go to faith, not blind faith, but faith. And I don't really have the words to say what faith really is, because there is no, it's something that I feel and that I know. And it took me a long time to get there. So I have the faith. And the question that comes up is, as a creator being with purpose here on the planet, with other people, because there's power to that, and being responsible for everything that's created in the realm of effects in my life, why would I create pain for myself, disease for myself?
That's a great question.
Do that.
That's a great question. And the question is steeped in judgment. That something is wrong with pain and discomfort.
Yes, yes, yes.
Why are we all just living blissful lives and just being joyously happy all the time? Why do we do that? Why do we have pain? Why do we put ourselves through some of this stuff in our lives? I gotta tell you, those are spiritual experiences too. Why would you do that? Maybe that's one way to ground you in your physical experience. I can't tell you specifically. There's always purpose behind it, though. There's always something that it fits into the matrix of our lives, and it always carries us to a place of remembering who we are. We'll allow that. Or we can die miserably thinking that we were a lost soul, but when we stick around here, when the pain comes, when the prognosis shows up, when the breakup happens, we still have the opportunity to remember who we are and to use that circumstance to ground ourselves in the greater truth. So why do bad things happen to good people? People have written books on that. And the truth is that they're all spiritual experiences, and they all fit perfectly into the matrix of our lives. So can't be bad.
And I've gone to a place where there is no good or bad. This is an experience that I'm happening. And through intense pain, it's funny, we had an interesting conversation with someone the other night, but through intense pain, doorways open to places that would never, so I see the purpose in that. I don't need a really definitive answer. I see part of it, and there's part, especially when I see it like out there, and again, that's not my responsibility, and it's not my business. But I do have strong empathy for that, and I know when it comes back to me, I know all that. But anyway, thank you for.
Pain
addressing the
is
question.
required. You're gonna be in life, you're gonna experience pain.
It's a
Suffering is
requirement.
optional. Because suffering, by definition, is the idea that pain will never go away. Being lost. So I recommend not suffering, but pain's part of the deal. One of the most joyous things in life is giving birth. I hear it's extraordinarily painful.
That's a really good example.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's absolutely true.
So, if men had babies and had to go through that, birth would be a sacrament. It's true. We're not designed for that kind of stuff. Oh my God. Yes, Laura?
So, in the pain and repeating the pain,
and I'm hearing that good things come from the pain, so we're creating the V that reinforces that I get my spiritual awakening through pain sometimes. I mean, we can get caught in that groove, but if we can change our thought to know that I can get my spiritual awakening through joy, can we shift where there isn't as much pain? Or, I mean, I know pain will happen, but if we get, it's that
We
the
don't,
pain brings
we don't
me.
look for, I don't know anybody that looks for pain. There may be some sadists in the world that are into finding pain. However, pain is a natural condition of the world of effects and being here. I don't think that good things come from pain. I think good things come from an awakening of spirit within us. When we remember who we are, our life shifts. And every time I have been in a state of discomfort, whether it was physical or emotional, when I remember who I am and view and experience life from that perspective, though the pain goes away. Does it go away that moment? Sometimes. If it's emotional pain, it can be gone because I got it. Physical pain, it has its course, but I tell you what, every thought you have is being heard by every cell in your body. So if you're experiencing physical pain, talk to your body. Talk to it with truth. Tell it that it's whole, that it's healthy, that it's complete.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
Just, to me, if we're creating these paths of we think it, we see it, it's reinforced, we think it, we see it, and we've thought, something comes in as pain, and we've thought that and just found a spiritual awakening in that, and we've linked the two in our mind, then we can sometimes create that pain repetition
Oh, we
to
do.
bring a spiritual awakening.
We're creating all the pain.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I won't judge somebody being in pain. I won't make them wrong for that.
I'm not thinking of it in judgment, I'm thinking of it as, okay, I can shift that.
Yeah.
That my spiritual awakening can come, a lot more often through something joyful than something painful. It's just trying to shift my
Yeah.
perspective.
And we do
using
fall into
pain to
patterns with
awake.
that. I used to have this thing where I would twist my ankles. I could walk through a parking lot with nothing there except one piece of asphalt broken, sitting in the middle, and I would catch it on my foot and twist it and fall down and writhe in pain. This happened over and over and over. It was ridiculous how that would happen in my life. And it usually would happen when I was stressed. And I came up with an affirmation that said, I've got to shift this. And it was, my ankles are healthy, my ankles are strong, my ankles support my weight easily. And I would say that every day. And it all stopped. And what the lesson was for me was, take responsibility for your body. And I can't just not have responsibility for my body. I have to know that I'm in charge. And where I step my foot is my responsibility. And what I put in my mouth is my responsibility. And what I listen to is my responsibility. And what I see is my responsibility. And from that, I learned a lot. And it was painful to go through all that. I don't regret that. I don't want to do it again. And I haven't done it in many years. I only did it once on this property. It's when we were walking around and they had put the line for the flood line with flags across the edge of this building. They won't let you build where they say there's a flood line. So I went out there and I pulled up all the flags. And we had the people that were doing the grading build it up a little more up here so that we were truly out of it, but we weren't going to go through surveys again. But the stress of that moment being out there, knowing that I was pulling those flags up, I twisted my ankle. That may be the last time I twisted my ankle, and I did that. I knew exactly what I was doing. That was my signal that I was not seeing who I was, and that's not okay with me anymore. So that's not an issue in my life. So I don't want to have, you're right. Can you do it without pain? I suppose somebody does it without pain, but most people I know have some kind of pain in their lives, and it has value. Not that you beckon it forth, oh, give it some pain. Nobody wants that. But we do want, when that shows up, to remember who we are. And what I find is that when we do, it subsides, it goes away almost instantly for me.
I had another question about the effect, and everyone talks about effect and not wanting to be there in the bad stuff, but all the good stuff is effect too.
Absolutely.
So, I want to hang out there sometimes.
We're
in
here
that
all the time.
effect.
We can't get away from it until we give up our bodies.
Yeah.
So
and-
let's play, let's enjoy it. But let's not give it the power over us to run our lives. That's where it gets sticky. That's the place that doesn't work. Is where
Right.
you think anything that's happening in the world affects, sun has some power over
So
you. It does not.
it's enjoying the effect, but not chasing the effect, trying to make it happen every time.
Either trying to, well, we do though, that's what we do is we create the effects we want.
Mhm.
That's our work. Because that's what we can, that creation implies effect, because you can't create spirit. Spirit is absolute, so all you can create is effect.
Okay, so how does positive effect have power over me? Can you give me an example?
Because you were worried that it would leave.
Attachment.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
attachment's a good word, yeah.
Okay.
Then how many relationships are like that? Oh God, if they leave me, I'll die. Our people do that. God, I hear people do this all the time. I knew that was gonna happen. You were right. And that was the thing they didn't want, which replaces the thing that they had that they did want. If we play those games in our mind, we create those experiences in our environment. So, we fill our world with wonderful things, and then we go, well, what's that? What's that thing? That doesn't fit. That doesn't work. And what do we do when we do that? We build it, we grow it, because we're telling ourselves how wrong it is. But life doesn't care whether we make things right or wrong. What we put our attention on is what we get. And who doesn't? Your doctor tells you that you're, let's pick something. You're diabetic. What do you think about all day? God, I'm diabetic. He said I was diabetic. I went to the doctor once and he said, you have high blood pressure. I said, no, I don't. He said, I just took your blood pressure, it's high. I said, no, it's not. He got really upset with me. And I admire allopathic medicine. There's wonderful things in there. But don't be telling me who I am. That's not going to work. If I break a bone, set it. Thank you for setting it. Take an x-ray of it. I'm glad for you to do that. But don't tell me who I am. And so I had a reason to go back to that doctor one more time for something. I don't remember what it was. But he wasn't there, and one of his associates was there. She happened to be a Buddhist. And she said, it says here in your file that you have high blood pressure, but I took your blood pressure, it's not high. I said, I know. She said, how'd you do that? I said, you told me you were a Buddhist. How did I do that? She said, you thought about it. I said, that's it, you got it. And she laughed, and we had a good time. But I never went back to that doctor's office, because I don't need that. I loved reading that letter from Holmes on Sunday. If you were here, you heard me start the letter by saying, I haven't written you because I got sick for the first time in my life. The man was 72 years old. He got sick for the first time in his life. He made his transition 31 days after he wrote that letter, sent that letter out. But wow, isn't that cool? Never needed to learn from sickness in his life. He found other ways, like Laura's talking about. But he had plenty of things to work on. I think that the thing about effect and the challenges of effect is that it calls us to know who we are. It calls us to stay vigilant in that path of awakening. That's what's valuable. Yeah. Why don't we take a break? So do we have any questions, thoughts? Who would add to this conversation we've been on, that anyone wants to share? Yes? Sorry. Okay.
Big change. Those of us who live independently, there's not a physical David or a physical Tim or a physical Rick or a physical whomever to bounce things off of or to communicate with.
Right.
And wanting to communicate, knowing that there are, angels and spirit guides and, those that are there to support us and love us and call on. It's like, so I know what she's saying as far as wanting to communicate. It's like, okay, guys, this is what we got to do today, and I will help you, and so love me, and let's go. So I understand what
Sure.
Laura's saying.
And I have no issue with that at all.
Yeah, I know you did, but
Yeah.
it's just like,
Yeah.
let her know that there are those.
You got a kindred spirit over there.
Yay.
And, maybe your angels could get together with her angels and
Yeah.
have lunch.
And what a party we had.
Thank you, Victoria. Any other thoughts in the room? Anything pondering? Okay, so I want to go to the reading, and on page 30, at the bottom, it says practice. I don't know do we know what year she wrote this? 19, so did Holmes have his practice of spiritual mind treatment down by the time she did this? I don't think so. Well, he was working through all that time, but I've never heard when he actually coined the phrase spiritual mind treatment, or mind, yeah. Okay. So, she's over here creating practice, and of course you know she was a student of Emma Kurtz Hopkins. And so she puts this together, and I'm thinking, practice. Well, my practice is spiritual mind treatment. And then as I'm going, I see that the third line, she says, stand firm. You have to stand firm to do spiritual mind treatment. You have to know you have to begin with some level of authority to speak these words. The next line, she says, declare the power of God. Well, that's step one. That's recognizing the presence of the divine, is to recognize the power of the divine. That's exactly what she's saying. The next line is assert your divine nature. Oh, step two.
Where are we?
Page 30 at the bottom, practice. Line 3.
What copy do you have?
Your pages differ? Okay.
Or third.
We are in lesson 4.
Page 34.
Okay.
Page 34.
I don't know what it is. It's all perfect. There's a section called practice. Can you find it? 34, page 34.
No, right here.
If you'll see the third line, it says stand firm. It's at the top, the third line in a section called practice. Stand firm, declare the power of God, assert your divine nature. That's steps 1 and 2 right there. If you go down 3 more lines, the last word on that line is you. See that? You shall manifest health, long life, prosperity, and perfect happiness. That's step 3.
Yeah.
Step 4 is thanksgiving. You'll see that in the last line. And acknowledge that all the good your heart is desiring is now come to pass. And so it is.
Is that grateful?
Gratitude and thanksgiving are exactly the same thing. So there's your treatment. She obviously understood that. You know, she didn't make it as linear as Holmes did, but the elements of treatment are in what she calls practice. Everyone. Quite amazing. I thought that was worth acknowledging. In the, what else did I want to share? There's something actually, yeah, there was an interesting thing on that page. There was a Bible story that I actually did not know that she referred to there. It was about a Syro-Phoenician woman, that simply means Greek. A Greek woman that was crying out to Jesus. He had done his thing where he fed the multitudes, and he was headed somewhere else. And he's healing people along the way, and this woman is crying out, wanting his attention. And he's kind of busy. And it's an interesting conversation. She is being annoying in her crying out for his attention. And he can tell by what he says that he's annoying. He tells her that the first should go to the children, and whatever's left should be given to the dogs. What an insult. Because in essence, he's telling her, you wait your turn, you're one of the dogs. And she says to him, even the dogs receive value from their master's crumbs. And he stops and thinks. And he says, okay, your daughter's healed. Because of your belief. Because of your belief. He always did that. He never owned that. Did you notice that in these stories? He never said, okay, I have healed you. He never once said that. He said, because of your belief, you're healed. And apparently she was. Isn't that amazing? And the point of that, it's under the section called persistence, is we must be persistent in our knowing. You know, especially when we're new at this, and we claim that something is so, and then we open our eyes, and we see what was there before, the tendency is to go, okay, I guess not. And we lose everything by doing that. Because we're creating from the top of the model. And if we go, Oh, I guess that's just the way it is. We created that. We created it to be just the way it is. So we have to be vigilant and persevere and know the truth of who we are. And Native people do that in the West. You persevere, you stay with it, you work through it, you know the truth. Holmes was notorious. He had a place in his home, he had an opulent home in Los Angeles. And he had a library, and that's where he did his treatment. Did you ever go to his home? I've heard stories of his beautiful home. They loved to do dinner parties and things, but his wife was very wealthy, so he was too. And they had a lovely home, and he had a library, and that's where he'd go to treat. Thing was, is that if something came to him at the end of the day, if he went and visited somebody at the hospital, or he got a card from somebody, and he was called to do treatment work, he would go lock himself in his library, sometimes for hours. And people, what's he doing in there? He's doing his work. Because he has taken on being the practitioner for someone, and he can't leave it until he is absolutely convinced. Yes?
Where was his home located?
Golly, I had an address at one time. It was not far from the office on 6th Street. So it was in that part of LA, kind of the western part of the city, but not to the beaches.
Pacific Palisades?
Maybe somewhere in there.
Then, if that was it, I was.
Oh, really? Cool. Yeah, Marilyn could tell you, Marilyn Leo, she lived down the street. But the thing about him going into that and having those experiences is that he knew when he knew the truth. And he would not stop till he knew it. You know, and if you go visit somebody in the hospital and they're on a respirator, and your job is to know that they breathe easily on their own, that takes some work. You know, that takes some convincing yourself with absolute certainty that that is so. You don't just do that with a quick 2-minute treatment and be done. You stay with it. He stayed with it. And I think that's the work of our practitioners and why they're so good at what they do. Because they stay with it. We stay with it until we absolutely can see that being the case. And once we get there, then you're done. You've done the work. But until you get there, you got to stay with it. And that's what this woman was to Jesus. She was that persistence that required resolution. She was not going to give up. And she was annoying everybody, according to that story. She was not going to give up until she had resolution. And that's the essence of what we do in our work. Because this stuff down here, it calls to us. Hey, sailor. You know? It's alluring. It wants us to pay attention to it. It has all that built into it. And our job is to go, no, I must know the truth. I think one of the most powerful classes I ever had in teaching treatment was when one of the students, when we do this, we have this, those of you that haven't done this, we have people from Monday night come in on a theme, and whatever that theme is, the practitioner sits with them, and the rest of us in the class sit around them and observe. And they do it, a spiritual mind treatment, I call it like swimming with leg weights. To have to do that in front of your peers, in front of everybody, have your conversation, and then do your treatment while everybody sits there and watches you. But we had one where it was very clear to me that this practitioner didn't believe what she just treated. And so when we were done, and the person left, I said, so did you believe that? And I was so proud of her. She said, no. Because she could have said, well, of course I believed it. But she didn't. She said no. She gave a gift to everybody in that class. Because in that moment we knew that that simply doesn't make her wrong. It means there's still work to do. That's all. It wasn't resolved in 10 minutes. There's still work to do. I said, what are you going to do? She said, I'm going to do treatment. I said, that's perfect. So don't judge yourself for that. Don't make yourself wrong. Just keep doing the work. And she did. And that situation was resolved. So be persistent. Be vigilant. Be annoying. But get to that place where you're absolutely certain. Yes, ma'am.
So, from what you just said, even the practitioners like yourselves who have studied this for years still has to work towards knowing.
Absolutely.
So,
now, some of it's just, I got this. This is nothing. I got you. And you know it right there and then. And then there's other times where you go, okay, I'll work on this. I'll work on this. I'll stay with this till I get it. you know, and either way works, there's no right or wrong there.
So you're getting rid of the doubt when you're doing that, working on your getting
Yeah.
rid of the doubt.
And especially on your own, when you're treating yourself, when you're doing the work yourself, you have every reason not to believe that this can change. You know, we are such experts on the issues of our lives. We know when it started. We know who to blame. We know how much it hurt. We've got all this stuff down, and now we're going to take the other side. That's a lot to ask. That's the blessing of practitioners, because they really don't care. They don't. But sometimes the things they're asked for, they're not really ready to get that. So they still have to do the work. But for the most part, the blessing of having someone else do it is they're not emotionally attached to it. They don't have the stuff on it. But you can still treat yourself through it. You just have to stay with it and be that perseverant one that stays with it. Ah, practitioner.
And that is the reason why Barbara will say, or John will say, don't tell the story, just tell them what you want us to know. So we don't buy into everything. And so that's very true. We know very much about our own stuff. And that's also why they said, don't ask a relative to treat, because we know all of the ick. So we need to be in that place of knowing and not being invested in the story.
Lloyd Tupper tells a story of flying from San Francisco to New York once a month to meet with Raymond Charles Barker, the minister here in Manhattan. And they would have a counseling session, and while Lloyd is telling him about all the terrible things that are happening, Raymond would be sitting there going. And finally, being annoyed by it, Lloyd said to Raymond, "What are you saying over there? You're saying something. What are you saying?" He said, "I'm saying not a bit of truth in it. Not a bit of truth in it." Isn't that great? So we use whatever we use to get to where we need to go. You know, whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. And we are our biggest challenge in that. Not to say that we can't do it, we can do anything. And the point of all of it to me is to remember who we are, that we are the divine, that we dwell wholly and completely in the upper part of this moment.
John, I have a
That we experience this stuff, but we are that.
I'm
Yes.
gonna be annoying to you. It seems to me that when it says in the Bible that Jesus said, "Your faith has made you whole," it seems to me that that's really, is that, because now when we're being practitioners, we say that it's the consciousness of the practitioner that does the healing. So it seems to me that it would have been the consciousness of Jesus that really did the healing, but he just didn't want to claim that. So he said, "It's your faith that made you whole."
That's a really interesting point. Thank you for bringing that up. What comes to me as you're saying that is that the relationship between the practitioner and the client is one of agreement, and there is a lending of consciousness in that moment. There's a lending of consciousness. You will see that everyone that came to Jesus was looking for something from Jesus, yet he gave it back to them and said, "It's your faith that makes you whole." So there was some kind of relationship there that they fed on from, that they worked on from that. So the relationship between the client and the practitioner is that I'm calling upon you to know the truth for me. I give you no power over me. I simply accept your vision for my life and use that to be wholly who I am. And I think that's how it works, is that there's a relationship there, but the practitioner has no power over anyone. They simply have the ability to see that, and if it's embraced and accepted by the client, it's received. Now, many will tell you it doesn't matter what the client thinks, but the client's asking, therefore there's already a tacit agreement that something's happening here. And that's just a lending of consciousness, because what we've learned from Holmes and living the science of mind is that if someone does not shift their thinking, yet they receive some kind of a demonstration through working with a practitioner, they will return to the other way.
Right.
So they're ultimately responsible for their agreement. That's why I call it a lending of consciousness, because that's temporary. That thing that you're doing with a practitioner is temporary. The task is, okay, if you can believe it, you can have this because you're experiencing it right now. that you've had the healing, you've had the condition go, or you've had the demonstration show up, whatever it is has happened. Now it's your job to know that that's the truth of your life, and to hold that.
And on several occasions, Jesus said, don't sin anymore.
Yeah,
It's differently going forward.
yeah, do it a different way. Wake up, wake up. Yeah. That's a whole piece in here too, sin. It was actually about earthly things. Barbara circled it. It's like, talk about this, John.
Sin's a good term.
Yeah, this is the one. I should probably read it so I let her know. The truth has always been in the world, but the fear and intolerance of men have kept it hidden. Also, the intoxication of earthly pursuits have blinded their eyes to its holy joys. But now the race is rapidly awakening from its dream that satisfaction can be found in worldly pleasures, and the age is ripe for the fullest presentation of God's truth. Sounds prophetic. Again, earthly pleasures are part of effect. We give them no power over us. We simply enjoy them. You know, I don't think anyone's saying that we have to become monks. We have to live in isolation. We are here together. We enjoy one another's company. We learn from one another. We express with one another on all kinds of levels. But that is not the truth of our life. That's the pleasures of our life. Okay, we know the distinction. I don't think we can get in trouble with that. Anybody else got anything right now? Because I got a couple other things I want to read. We still got time. Anything else? Anybody popping on anything? Okay. Let's see. Evil. Oh, yeah. Evil. She says evil is an illusion. And you know what? I agree with her. Well, then how do you explain, like, the evil flavor of the day, ISIS? How do you explain it? They're going around killing people. They're chopping people's heads off. They're murdering people by the thousands. He said, how can that not be evil? Well, here's the deal. If you name it evil, then you give it power. You give it some kind of authority, something to be afraid of. So don't even go there. Judgment does not work. Separation does not work. Yes, there are people in the world that have picked up arms and are killing people. Is that acceptable? Absolutely not. Will forces rise up against that and stop that? Absolutely. That is what has always happened in time. So that's where it's going. I don't know how long it takes, but that's what's going to happen, because it always does. But to call them evil would be to give them some authority to be who they are, to be contrary to good. Why would I give them that kind of authority? So I don't call them evil. I say that there are people that are being violent in the world, and it can't last because it's not real. Yes, there are lives where people are losing their bodies and moving on. They'll be back. There's plenty of work to do. People talk to me about the Holocaust, about how could you not say that was evil? And what I see in the Holocaust, and I hope someday I get to go to the Holocaust Museum in Washington. I haven't been there yet, but I would very much like to go, because my idea is that we had the agreement of millions of people to give their physical lives up, their bodily experience up, so that we could wake up as a species and realize that's just not acceptable. What a gift. An extraordinary gift. Because killing people has been part of the human experience since the beginning. I'm sure the first time that a Neanderthal clobbered somebody with a club and they didn't get up, we thought, wow, that works. But it doesn't. It's all in this world of effect. Yes, you can take someone's body, but you cannot take their soul. Because that's who they are. And they will come back. There's a thing that came up in some of the Scientology work I did with Ken in Australia. He said, oh yeah, if you think you need to kill me, go ahead, I'll come back and get you in the next life. Mm-hmm. Oh, jeez. I don't want that kind of burden. So no, I'm not going to play that game. I choose not to be violent, because violence begets violence. I don't want that. No, and it's not real anyway. It's not the way we want to experience life. It's not an attribute of God. The attribute of God that is real is peace. That's the natural state of things. That's the truth of who we are. These aberrations show up and then they dissolve into nothingness because they can't sustain themselves. But peace can. And I've looked at the research. We are more peaceful as a species today than we ever have been. There's more of us, So there's plenty more peace to spread around, but there's less violence in the world today than there's ever been, even with things like ISIS going on. And we're learning that it just really doesn't work to kill people, to take their bodies. It doesn't work. You don't win. You can't. So that's where we're going. We're going more and more to peace, and to realizing that that's a natural state of things. So there's no reason to call something evil, because then we have to be afraid of it. We have to watch out for it. And we have to protect ourselves from it. The truth is that we are as safe as we believe we are safe. And to claim evil in the world only makes us less safe. Barbara.
So how do we merge the knowing that evil is not real and focus on peace, what we want to create, at the same time saying, okay, what ISIS is doing is unacceptable and we should stop them? How do you pull those two things?
Well, I didn't say we have to stop them. I said they will be stopped. Yeah, there are, and there's that game too of people saying, well, the reason there was a Holocaust is that the Jews didn't stand up to the Nazis. I don't agree. I think that was a pre-planned thing at some level beyond my conscious awareness that created that as an experience in the human experience, a marker in all of time where we could learn something profound.
Probably like 9/11.
Well, that kind of thing, sure. And there's always retribution in those circumstances. There are governments that will not let this ISIS thing go. That now, different. The beauty of governments is that they keep replacing themselves with new people with different ideas. So, people that are up to addressing this in France and in Germany and England and the United States and Japan are finding their ways into action on this. Maybe not for us to see, but I'll bet you all those governments are working on this diligently right now. So they, and the provoking that's going on is asking them to.
Yes.
So that will work itself out. What I need to do in the meantime is know peace. To know that I am peace, to surround myself with that understanding of peace. Because if I buy into ISIS, and I see a Muslim person walking down the street in this city, I'm gonna fall apart. And I'm going to call some kind of garbage to me, and I don't want that.
And not only that, if you're resonating with the vibration of peace, then you're sending that level of consciousness out so it affects
Absolutely.
everybody. It's a butterfly effect.
Absolutely. Yeah, there were times in the Clinton administration when we were out in the cornfield, and there were plans to bomb places, and we just called everybody in the room together to know that. Remember that, Kathy and Rick? Remember when we used to do that? And we would just know that everyone in that area was safe. And there was peace, and we would surround that area in peace. And then we'd go home and we'd hear a news report that the bombings were canceled. And you go, like, come on, you're in a cornfield in Fairview, North Carolina, and you're directing the U.S. military? Yes, yes. If you have the authority of the divine, you can do that. Why not? So we choose. This idea, and this is the beauty of this work and this woman's work from long ago, is it calls us to remember who we are in a way that we're not doing that a lot in this movement these days. I got an email from a colleague the other day that was lamenting how we have lost this edge of being responsible to the nth degree for being the divine presence on earth, and that we're somehow diluting ourselves with other ideas. And I got her point. And the best I can do is know who I am. And when I go and speak at these other places, to know who they are and to remind them of that. And if enough of us pick that back up, we're all right. We're on our course. We're finding our way. And even Dr. Holmes in his brilliance contradicted himself on these points from time to time. Because he was so prolific, he kind of had to. And he was bouncing back and forth. There was a time where he was trying to bridge between traditional Christianity of the turn of the century and the place that he knew that we could go from this idea of metaphysics. He was working on that his whole career. He was a bridge builder. I'm not sure that Annie here was a bridge builder. She was an absolutist. Either you get this or you perish. So whatever it requires, whatever path you want to take to get this, the point is, let's get it. Let's get where we're going here. Yes, sir.
One thing on those other guys out there, doing all that stuff. Looking at it from everyone and everything is looking for good, capital G. And I I'm not making a hero out of Hitler or any of these guys, but he was looking for the good for the German people. They got devastated in armistice, embarrassed and so forth. And, you know, the Japanese looking for the good so they can have a flourishing economy. And these guys are just looking for the good, and how they're going about it is something else again. But when I step back and look at it that way, you know, looking at it from the eyes of God, from a bigger picture other than just, oh, they're coming to get me.
Right, and they're using the old standards of when the way to win was to kill everybody that was your enemy. You know, that's the way people thought, you know, centuries ago. And they're trying to, you know, create a revival of that way of being in the world. And it doesn't resonate with us, but, you know, that's their perception right now. And for some reason, that part of the world right now is in that hands. You know.
But we can understand them, we can understand that aspect of ourselves, even though they may not. And that's, you know, that's what comes with stepping into this other activity.
Yeah, Moritz talks a lot about immature thinking. And truly, we don't do this just as individuals. We get caught up in immature thinking as a species at times. And these things call us to remember who we are. It's like the species of human beings on planet Earth, we have a tumor growing in that part of the planet. And our job now is to eliminate the tumor, remember who we are, and move forward with a clarity of purpose that does not include that kind of violent action. So this is waking us all up. Again. But we do require being awakened again and again. And at some point, we will have a species of people that can coexist peacefully. That's where we're headed. And these things remind us and hold us to account on that. And it's so, and you know, that falls short of actually saying it's good, but it has its place in the evolving presence of human beings on planet Earth.
I think what this got to me, David, was it said the good of all. And with all these cultural things, be it Hitler or ISIS or anything, it's the good for my people.
Yeah.
It's not the good for all.
Yeah.
And therefore, that's the difference to me. And I found it very hard because I don't want to be nice to all.
Well, she's very clear about don't think that evil becomes good.
Yeah.
You know, believe that evil doesn't exist, that God is all that exists. And that, so whatever's going on, you may not want to call what ISIS is doing as good, but you certainly can, if you step away from it, as we're talking about here, and observe it objectively, you can see it fits into the unfolding experience of human life on planet Earth, like everything else has. As ugly, as unattractive, as scary, as deadly as it is, it fits perfectly into our evolving evolution of life on planet Earth. And we don't, that doesn't mean we accept it. In fact, the point is don't accept it. Don't agree with it. Don't give it space to exist, and it will go away. It will. It always has. You know, every time there's been an uprising of that kind of violence, no matter what it looked like, whether it was the Roman Empire or the Ottoman Empire or the empires of China and Japan, doesn't matter. Those kind of oppressive things come and go because peace is the constant. And it doesn't look like it in the moment. It's sort of like suffering. The difference between pain and suffering is you don't know when it's going to end. We don't know when ISIS is going to end, but it will. It will. And it's painful right now, but it will end. Yes, sir. A little higher than.
Just in looking at myself, I find it really interesting to see the difference between what I intellectually understand and what I'm feeling, you know, deep in my guts.
Right.
And if I say I'm not feeling it, I will be lying to myself, and that doesn't work either. So the whole thing with the Holocaust, which keeps coming up, I'm in this stuff for like over 25 years. It keeps coming up, and it keeps kind of, you know, raising a red flag or saying, okay, you know, this is where it ends for me, you know. I remember a time when we were asked to say, yes, you know, I love Hitler, you know, don't go there with me. So I understand, I'm very grateful for understanding that there is a larger picture. And if I step back and I look at the larger picture, I see where it's all acceptable, where it's all stuff that needed to happen. And I don't know why, but it needed to happen because it happened. So it needed to happen because it happened. And I could accept that. And when I observe myself and where my heart goes, when I hear anything, you know, even what you said, you know, and I love you and I hear what you're saying and I'm in complete agreement. So it's not you that's speaking, it's something that responds from a very deep place in me, that comes from my upbringing, that comes from knowing people on a personal level that have suffered through the Holocaust. And it just happens to be something that I know. You know, there was slavery, this is something that had a personal place in my life. So there's a hold out there. And I'm really interested in the hold out, because I know that when I stop holding out on that particular issue, something's gonna open up. There's a block there somewhere. And I accept that. I accept it about myself. You know, and there it is.
First step is to recognize something's there. You know, then you can do something about it, and I think you're on the perfect path. Good for you. You know, this thing about an evolution of who we are as a people, recognizing our divinity, is a circuitous route. We're not going directly at it. You know, we're going here and there and all around, but we're finding our way. And I must know that. If I don't know that, then all is lost. We must be evolving into a greater understanding of our divinity. And everyone, no one included, radical Islam. I grew up in the Baptist church, so I get to pick on the Baptists. We're all evolving. We're all evolving. Nobody gets out of that. You know, everybody's finding their way. And the truth is that children that are born today will live in a more evolved world than we grew up in. Isn't that wonderful? Even though it's not always been pretty, not always been easy, it's still important to understand we are evolving. We can't see it from day to day, but if you look at it over the centuries, clearly that's what we're doing. You know, I heard that lament that, I forget who said it, that our technology has evolved faster than our humanity. But our humanity is evolving too. We're finding our way. We are not the people that were here 100 years ago. We're here in a new way, a better way. And we are on the front edge of that. You know, not everybody wants to join us at the front edge, but we are pulling them along, kicking and screaming into a better world. So let's keep it up. The better we do in our lives, the more we give them the opportunity to drop the resistance. I remember when my mom's husband was her first and third husband. That's a long story. Told me he didn't like the idea of recycling because he didn't want other people making money on what he was doing. And then recycling just became part of the culture. I would watch him take that can of recycle out to the road and say, there you go. You know, good for you. You know, because he became part of the solution, even though he resisted it. Everybody comes along. Everybody. You know, a generation or two back, if they were to step into the stream and see the way the world is today, they would be aghast. They would like, how can you do that? But they're not here anymore. We're here. Frankly, we're probably some of them. But we have evolved along the way and find ourselves in this better world. The key, I believe, to the depths of my being that will make the difference is what we bring to the world, and that is the divine is present within us right now. Not many people on the planet are dancing with that right now, but we are. And if we do that well and prove it to be so, that will be the essence of what we move into. And we'll find peace, and we'll find joy, and we'll find beauty, and we'll find love, and we'll find all the attributes of God, because we own them, and that's where we live from. And we'll find ways to be at peace with all of the effects of life, no matter what they are. And by doing that, we'll live in a better world. That's what I think. I really like this class.
So, by thinking that, she mentions concentration, is by reminding yourself, does that help improve your concentration?
Yeah, you know, that word of concentration doesn't resonate strongly with me, so I recommend you ask Barbara. Because I have this image of people doing treatment work or spiritual practice and making it effortful. Concentration to me feels like effort. And I love the term that we have grown into with the third step of treatment, which is realization. I just realized this. I didn't make that happen, but I realized it. So I'm joining in the consciousness that knows this is real. Wow, that's an easy place to go. It's effortless. I want to realize I don't want to have to concentrate on making something happen. What I do want to do, though, is anytime I feel pain or frustration or anything that feels heavy to me, is let that be my signal that my job is to recognize. I am the presence of the divine, and there is no place in me that has time to be angry, upset, confused, bewildered, or any of the sort. I know who I am. And I love getting in somebody else's face and saying, I know who you are too. Yeah, there you go. So, yeah, our time has come to a close. Pass these baskets, and I would like to offer a blessing. This is one of my favorite things to do. Remember that this flow is an elegant demonstration of the presence of the divine. We use this tool called money to speak, to express ourselves. And we do it elegantly. We do it in a way of saying thank you. We do it in a way of saying I got it. We do it in a way of saying I believe in this place and what it's about. And whatever else we may use in expressing ourselves through the giving of money. I know that that giving is a divine act. It is a loving act. And it is a demonstration of consciousness. So I pass these baskets, knowing that the presence of the divine continues to reveal itself through us in our flow as much as in our actual presence in the moment. We are active, full, creative beings in life, and we allow that to flow right here and right now. And so it is. I bless these gifts. I know they come in a really good way, and I know that the blessings that flow from them into this center circle back around and flow into the lives of each one who gives. I am so grateful to be in this dynamic flow. I am so grateful to have had this time to share with these beloveds these ideas of this rich, full, expansive thing called life. I am so grateful for the presence of the divine in me, as me, through me, and present in each one here. What a joyous journey this is. It awakens me, and I am blessed, as is each one here, blessed, full, rich. And I know now that we leave this place filled to overflowing, and we get to spill that out in the world with everyone else that we meet and everything else that we do. And God keeps showing up because God is all there is. That's the truth. We let it be. And so have a fantastic week. What's that? Yeah, so if she gives you the next reading, let's do that. That's fine.
Last time it was what, 4 and 5?
4 and 5. It does not say in these notes what the next reading is. I'll bet you it's 6. And if you read 7, that would be a nice insurance policy.